This is my submission for the Immersive Audio-Visual Design assignment. For my Immersive Audio-Visual project, I built my environment based on an American diner, featuring high-quality audio that was sourced from Epidemic Sound, custom-made and textured low-polygon models, and a range of items that the user could interact with in the scene. All found assets and animation references are at the end of the video, and the audio references are in the audio asset document found within the zip file for this assignment. In order to meet the requirement for the assignment, the user starts out in the car park of the diner, acting as the outdoor space. The main audio in this area is the outdoor ambience event, which was edited in both Adobe Audition and Reaper for the ambisonic elements. The outdoor ambience event also features looping wind and cicada tracks, along with a scatterer instrument for ambient vehicle noise. To ensure that the user progresses into the diner, there are teleportation meshes that dictate where the user can and can't go. As an example, the user cannot head towards the rear of the building, which has been set dressed as the staff parking area. The user is presented with a barrier that states that they cannot proceed beyond it due to it being for employees only, providing a reason to them being denied the ability to explore that area rather than just removing the ability without any cues as to the reason. The car park has 2 interaction spots along the front of the diner, drawing the user in the direction of the diner entrance. One of the interactions is setting off the car alarm of the 4x4 vehicle, which can trigger one of 2 lengths of the alarm audio. I wanted the interactions in this project to have an air of realism to them, as in reality, if you were to knock, hit, or touch someone's locked car, the alarm would trigger. The other interactions in the project, such as picking up a plate and setting it down, will also play audio relating to the asset. I believe that if there was no audio for these interactions, the user would feel a sense of being disconnected and then potentially disengage with the scene. The other interaction is the yellow vehicle that is parked near to the 4x4, which has one of the characters that I modelled sat on the floor next to a vehicle recovery card. Upon interacting with the car, the vehicle is audibly struggling before the engine eventually dies, providing the user with some backstory relating to the character and their situation, rather than the user exploring the entire environment with nothing to learn or pick up on. The characters seen in this video are textured using an Atlas texture map, which is useful for low poly and stylized projects as it generates only one material for multiple characters, rather than the usual setup for characters that ends up with multiple materials. Additionally, the characters are animated with the use of Mixamo, taking the rigged character assets and placing them around the space. Having the characters make slight movements while sat, in my opinion, makes it more believable and realistic, as nobody would be sat mannequin still. As the user heads to the door, the first assets that are visible are the jukebox and the framed pictures on the wall. These were positioned directly opposite the doorway as a method of drawing the user towards these assets upon their entry into the interior of the building. The user, upon interaction with the kitchen door, is met with visual and audible feedback, further reinforcing the playable space to the user. The audio in this instance helps to create an image of what the user is unable to see and starts to provide the user with information about the kitchen space and the staff within it. With the interior of the building, I wanted to include common items I had seen in my research and inspiration pictures, such as the American pictures, jukebox, and the red and white colouring for the furniture, further tying my diner to reality. The majority of the pictures within the diner were taken from Unsplash and edited in Adobe Photoshop, almost as if some of the pictures had become sun-bleached, aged, or taken recently with very solid colours. As mentioned previously, the interactions in the environment have audio that corresponds to the asset. In order to counteract potential repetition in the audio, the pitch and the volume of a large majority of the interactable events have randomization set up, which would create variance between each time the event is called. Just like real life, placing something down would not repeatedly make the same noise, there would be variation. Some of the assets, such as the coffee machine, have multiple audio tracks within a multi-instrument, which reduces the chance of repetition when combined with the randomization. As heard previously, there is dialogue in the environment primarily located in the kitchen. These voice lines were generated using 11 Labs voice synthesis, and the free voices are provided with this service. The use of dialogue in my project further creates an image of the kitchen and the staff within it, and provides snippets of information about the characters for the user to learn. I'd like to note that AI voice cloning is a service that 11 Labs do offer, but I did not use this for my project, as I personally believe that voice cloning falls into a morally grey area that needs further exploration and further guidance on its usage within the creative space.
86 on the chicken and waffles.
The jukebox is my most complex interaction in the scene and took a fair amount of time to get to a working state. The jukebox event had to be altered slightly due to issues with Fmod and works by using a custom script that plays from a stated list that holds the songs. Upon its initial creation, there were a few issues with getting the Unity event wrapper to work with the Fmod emitter, but these were eventually solved with the assistance of staff. I had originally planned to include terrain to break up the area that the user can see when in the headset. Unfortunately, this feature had to be removed, as when testing the project on the headset, the performance would drop significantly and the headset would start to struggle. I'd also like to mention that unfortunately, some of the Fmod events had to be simplified down from what was initially presented due to a repeated issue with incrementing parameters. The jukebox, the cash register, the indoor ambience and the vehicles outside of the diner all had Fmod events with custom parameter states. These events would not increment when built out to the VR headset for an unknown reason. Staff had repeatedly checked my script, along with checking the script directly against the Fmod scripting guidance, and it would still not increment. In order to submit a working version of the project, these events had to be simplified to not use the parameter states. Thank you for listening.